Global Talk. Welcome.
Welcome to another episode of Global Talks, a podcast by Cofose. Today we're recording at Photogoa, the second day of its 7th edition. And we are very excited to have the opportunity to talk with these international level speakers, such our guest today. I'm glad to introduce him, so let me tell you a little bit about him. Mick Ebelling, welcome, first of all.
Thank you.
He's an American inventor, entrepreneur, author, speaker, and philanthropist who focuses on developing groundbreaking technology. He is awarded by the Muhammad Ali Humanitarian of the Year Award and is named one of the top 50 most creative people by Fortune magazine, along an endless list of awards and recognitions. Welcome, and thank you for accepting the invitation.
Thank you.
Okay, Mick, we can start this chat. I want you to tell us, last night, you were the headliner of the first day of the event, and all the audience, including me, were blown away about the story of your project, of your initiatives, of the human side of all the inspiration that goes in your work. Can you tell us, please, something of how it started, the Not Impossible Labs?
Sure. So Not Impossible Labs started on accident. We ended up through a confluence of a lot of different things, ended up making a device called the iWriter for a paralyzed graffiti artist.
Yes.
And we didn't do it with any strategy. We just didn't do it with any kind of end goal except for helping this one artist who had ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, be able to draw again using only his eyes.
Okay.
And it worked. And then we all went back to our day jobs, right? And it wasn't, it was an amazing project and I worked with brilliant people, but we all just went back to work. And then we woke up one day and his story and the creation of this device that we released open source so that the rest of the world would have access to it ended up becoming Time Magazine's top 50 inventions, TED Talks, and accolades all over the world, calling it one of the best health inventions of our time. It's now part of the permanent collection at the MoMA in New York. And it made us say, wait a second, what's going on here? And so I considered maybe this is what I should be doing with my life is pursuing the creation of technology that helps people. And after a lot of thought and thinking and talking to family and friends and prayer and meditation, I decided I got lucky. That was it. And just stick with my day job, stick with what I was doing for my work, which I loved what I was doing, but just
what
stick with that.
What were you doing at the time, by the way?
I had a production company. So we did things like, we were doing some amazing work.
Such as
so focused in animation and design, and so we did
in the credits.
So we did credits. So we did the James Bond main title sequence.
The opening.
Yeah, the opening sequence, which in animation, that's the Holy Grail. That's the Super Bowl. That's the World Cup, right? That's what you want to do.
Yeah,
and so we had just
such an iconic project.
Oh, it was amazing, and we got to work with Daniel Craig.
Wow.
And it was just the whole project. So my career was on fire. It was great, but I kept waking up thinking about this project, this paralyzed artist. And so finally I said, all right, I got to make a decision. I made the decision, and it was that I got lucky, right? And I just said, stick with what you were doing in animation, but just that was great. And then I got an email from the artist, and the email said, that was the first time I'd drawn anything for 7 years. I feel like I've been held underwater, and someone finally reached down and pulled my head up so I could take a breath. And when you get an email like that, you don't really have a choice anymore.
It's a life-changing situation for everyone involved.
Yeah, and that was the start of Not Impossible Labs.
But let me get back a little bit. So you are like by career, you are a producer.
Correct.
And to be a producer, you have to a skill set that is very accurate for what you're doing now. You kind of are aware of everything that you need to make something happen.
Right. I wrangle people. If there's an idea that needs to be executed, I help to bring people together so that we can execute it.
Okay, can you tell us another project or one of the most iconic? You were telling last night such an amazing stories. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time so you can reply that on the podcast, but I want you to tell the audience a little bit more of
Sure.
one of those, please.
The next project we worked on was a project called Project Daniel. And that was the short version of that is we discovered this young boy who had both of his arms blown off in a bombing in this area in between Sudan and South Sudan called the Nuba Mountains.
Wow.
We were totally moved by his story. And so we ended up starting, bringing a team together to try to come up with a low-cost prosthetic solution so he could feed himself again and take care of himself.
Wow.
And
such a basic need.
It's a basic need, exactly. And so we ended up building this solution, and I went over to the refugee camp, and we started the world's first 3D printing prosthetic lab. And it was in a refugee camp, powered by solar because there's no, electricity, there's no running water. It's pretty remote. And we did that, and that just went crazy. So
wow. Maybe we can take this comment to talk about one of your mottos, which is help one, help
many.
Help many.
Sí.
Yeah.
Ayuda a una, ayuda a
Muchos.
Thank
you so much. Because you were talking about something that is the thing which is affordable, which is a very important thing, because now with the technological advances that we have nowadays, we're only looking for maybe aesthetics or maybe the cutting edge technology, which is very, very expensive for like the normal guy, the average Joe. But a lot of these stories or these basic needs that have to be covered are with people which doesn't have a lot of times the resources or the money to achieve that they need.
Mm-hmm.
So in Not Impossible Labs or in your projects, you're always trying to get that affordable and easy to reach kind of products.
For us, it's all about access. Because the things that we're solving are things that it's not like just getting a Coca-Cola or it's not like having an electric skateboard. It's something that you really, really need, right? And the things
Like
that
your
we're creating,
arms.
like your arms or the being able to draw or communicate or talk or, we created a device that allowed a blind skateboarder to skateboard again for mobility.
I was seeing the slides yesterday.
Yeah, so we're very much moved by this sense of urgency because the things that we're creating are vital for people to communicate or to be mobile or to have access to things. So there's a kind of a higher sense of urgency towards everything we do.
Yes, for sure. And you were talking, or maybe I want to ask you why the name Not Impossible. That is another one of your mottos.
Yeah, the story was actually really funny. When we were building the iWriter, the group of brilliant, scientists and hackers and makers and programmers were sitting around, and I kept hearing them say, yeah, it would be great if we could do that, but that's impossible. And then I would hear them say it again. Oh, it would be great if we could do that, but that's impossible. And then I said, well, hang on, what would happen if we made it not impossible? And they said, oh, well, yeah, I guess we
that
could.
Would be great.
And then they did that once or twice, and I kept saying, well, what would happen if we made it non-impossible? Mm-hmm. And then they started to get annoyed with me and they left the room, right? But it was that poking to say, why do we accept things as impossible?
Yes.
We as a human species, everything that surrounds us at one point, everything that surrounds us right now that's possible at one point was impossible. So why do we as humans accept things as impossible right now? Why do we instantly think they're going to be impossible forever? It's because we don't have that vantage point to look at things and kind of pull back and take a step back and say, wait, if everything that's possible today at one point was impossible, that means that everything that's impossible right now is on the same trajectory, the same pathway of going from impossible to possible. Exactly. And that's kind of the not impossible mindset, is that we refuse to accept that anything is going to remain impossible forever. So it might as well become possible sooner rather than later.
Of course, and that's you said the word mindset. I think that when we are able to watch a little bit further, or not so close of the comfort, or maybe the day by day commodities, or all the things that we set for granted, like you were talking about the example of the chair.
Yeah.
And there was a point where no one in humankind had a chair.
Nope. There was a point when no one in humankind had a spoon or a fork, right? There was a point that nobody had clothes. There was a point, and then someone was like, I'm cold, I'm gonna put on clothes. Or I'm tired of eating with my hands, and they carved a fork or a knife or a spoon. So
Yes.
we as a species are constantly seeing things that we want to solve, and then we figure out how to solve it. And the whole point of Not Impossible is, imagine if you channel that same potential, that same energy that we have, and you channel that towards achieving social issues within our own communities, our states, our governments. Imagine what would happen if we really had the focus and the mindset to start tackling those things.
I think it's mindset, the focus, and a lot of commitment that you already have.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because you're working on projects that are life-changing for everyone involved, especially the person who is in need, for so to speak. Can you tell us a little more about it?
Sure.
That commitment.
Yeah, one of our sayings that we learned during the iWriter, when we said we were going to do it, and then afterwards we realized we are not the right people to do this. We don't have the skills or the credentials or the experience to do it. But what we call that is commit and then figure it out, right?
Yes.
And again, that's kind of how we've operated as a species our entire life. We always will, we will see something and say, we have to solve it. We don't know how, but we have to solve it. So that sense of urgency and relentlessness around the things that we commit to solving, I think is what makes Not Impossible special.
Have they been driven by? I mean, like, don't quit at the middle of the paddle.
Yeah. Well, and the reason that we can't quit is that we never say, let's make a car, or let's make a shoe, or let's make a this. It's always, let's make something for this human being.
Yes.
So we're failing the human being if we don't do it. It's a personal thing. So it's not just failing, oh, it would be nice if we could make this. No, we have to make this. Okay, on to the next one.
On Monday.
But when you fail a person, the stakes are higher, right? There's more of an emotional resonance and an emotional commitment to that human being.
You were playing a video on your keynote last night, and that was about a personal story that were very close to you. Can you tell us about the
Which one?
The one with the Alzheimer's.
Oh, sure. So I have Alzheimer's affects my family. I've had 2 grandparents, and now my stepfather. Okay. All have Alzheimer's, and I don't know if you know much about it, but it's really hard on the people who don't have it.
Yes.
Right? And for a while, it's very hard for the person who's caretaking that person. So, that's Alzheimer's, sorry. That's the Alzheimer's side. We're doing an Alzheimer's project as well, which we can talk about. But Parkinson's, which is in that same kind of neuro.
It was Parkinson's video.
In that same neuro space it's a disease that takes away people's independence because of their inability to walk or their shake, and it's independence is just it's a sad thing to have taken away from us. And so we came up with a solution completely on accident that is a wearable device that right now we have about a 50% success rate, which is pretty substantial. That if someone has Parkinson's and they put on this device, which is wristbands, that it'll stop their tremors.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
You're giving back things that were taken away from them.
Exactly.
So it's always backing to the point where it becomes personal, so much personal.
Yeah.
And basic needs.
Yep.
And the thing that make those projects very to be able to access to everyone, because you're talking about open source and things like that. I think that it's great, it's amazing, and it's so much inspiring. I know you are not intended to, but I think it's amazing.
Awesome.
We're kind of wrapping it up for the episode.
Okay.
So if you want to talk about the other one of your mottos,
Sure. We have a couple key mottos. The first is commit and then figure it out, which
Excellent.
is if you see that there's a problem, if you see there's an absurdity in the world, just commit to solving it.
Absurdity.
Yeah. And then go change it. Then figure it out. Because once you decide to do it, you'll build the team around you. You'll figure out how to do it. The other one is help one, help many, which is how do you see the problem through the eyes and the focus of one person. And then when you solve it for that one person, doing that leads to being able to help many people. And then the last one that is more of like a mindset that we adopt when we're solving is a thing called beautiful, limitless naivete.
I love that quote.
If you don't know you're not supposed to do it, you do it.
You'll do it.
You just do it. You don't think anything of it. But if someone's like, oh, you can't do that, or
Says who?
yeah, well, someone says it, and now all of a sudden you start to doubt.
Yes.
But if you don't know that you're supposed to doubt, then you just go forward. And many times that's kind of the key to success, is not knowing that you shouldn't be able to do it.
Excellent. I love the project that you are already kept on going, and I'm sure that you're going to help a lot, not many, like a lot of people, and hopefully the whole world will be thankful. And you were talking about or questioning the audience last night to find our Daniel, find our legacy, to when we're not anymore in this world, we can leave behind something that was helpful for anyone else.
Yep.
So we can thank you so much
Thank
for your
you.
work, for your participation, and for accepting the invitation here at the Global Talks podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Anything that you want to ask, or
I
your
appreciate
social
it.
media, we can find you.
Sure.
In
All the
Not
social
Impossible.
media is at Not Impossible.
Excellent.
So pretty easy there. And then for my LinkedIn, it's at Mick Ebelling.
Excellent. We're going to put it on the screen. And that's it for today. We'll see you on the next episode of Global Talks. Thank you very much.
Gracias por escuchar Global Talk, un podcast de COFOSE, Coordinadora de Fomento al Comercio Exterior del Estado de Guanajuato. Hasta la próxima.
Guanajuato, Grandeza de México, Gobierno del Estado.